Well, I think there's a lot of reasons we'd misread them. Obviously, we're human and we act like humans and primates, and we've got a different type of animal. But I think what we want to look at is how to start turning it around. Let's look at patterns, because patterns are the first thing that we can do to notice a behavior. And they usually go into three buckets. And so I'm not going to get too behavior stuff because we are talking about bringing our dogs in public. But the biggest thing is, how do we notice what these patterns are? So we start looking at patterns that are like there's stereotypy, stereotypy. I can never pronounce that word. Basically, it means repetition.
Stereotypical?
Yeah, kind of stereotypical, but it's stereotypy. Anyway, it's repetition, right? So it's when it's like a persistent behavior that happens. We can have redirection, which means we got the wrong target, or shutdown, which is actually learned suppression. So let's look at this in action. Is for livestock or zoo animals, we are much quicker to relate a behavior and a pattern, or a captivity, taking something away and getting a behavior. Excuse me. For example, if you look at tongue rolling in cattle, goats, we are quick to associate with feeding frustration. If a large animal's pacing back and forth in their cage, it's usually that we say, oh, it's range reduction. So we expect that behavior. We expect to be more pacing when we reduce their range.
Yeah. Yeah.
Primates do a lot of over grooming, and we go, yep, they're reducing stress. So we put the two together. But in dogs, this is where I said before, we exempt them from the animal kingdom, because we say, oh, they're barking and they're being disobedient, as opposed to looking at anything else. Or my dog is reactive. So I say, oh, that's a lack of training. You better get another trainer involved. Or they destruction. And we say, oh, that's bad behavior. So what it comes down to is we don't match it up to, we've reduced a dog's ability to control their environment and we get behaviors. We think, oh, the dog's purposely and willfully disobeying me. And what the biggest difference is of why we tolerate this or understand it in livestock or zoo animals is we don't live with them day in and day out. I mean, there are people, when you go into real behaviorists that are working with livestock, they will see distress signals and know what's good and bad. But with a dog, we think we have to change this behavior because we don't have tolerance of it, right? Because it's in proximity to us. And it's just purely inconvenient for a dog to be barking and spinning and destroying my life because I have to live with a dog. Whereas if a cattle did it, or horses or goats, sheep, and other animals, zoo animals, we kind of go, well, I don't have to live with it day in and day out. So we see the behavior and then we walk away from it. So the deal is, it's the same mechanism, that we have blocked a natural behavior. So there's displacement of that behavior. We just have different labels for it with a dog. So the animal doesn't have enough control. We start to see patterns. And we see this all the time, especially the more that we bring our dogs out in public. It's not random. They are behavior patterns. And so what we see, let's be real specific, the repetition in dogs can be pacing, spinning, tail chasing. No.
No, it's not tail chasing. No.
Tail chasing. Those kinds of things, it's the same behavior over and over. So that's the repetition side. Redirection, when they're stressed, we see that as chewing or grabbing something, barking at the wrong time, the times that we don't appreciate their bark. And then we've got this learned suppression, shutdown. And this is where there's a huge issue with dogs in public, because so many of them have done learned suppression. But what we see is that they're quiet, they're still, and we go, oh, what an easy dog. We have such an easy dog. And everyone loves that dog. But we're not seeing it, that it could be suppression. I'm not saying that all of it is, but there could be a lot of just shutdown. And so we see it as the bad behaviors, that they explode at the end of the leash. They're chewing everything. What we wanted is, we want that dog to be quiet and just be our sort of invisible companion, right? And we don't want them to check out in public, but we really don't want to deal with them. So we've got the similar behavior, but other animals, we ask, well, what's creating that behavior? And in dogs, we say, how do I stop the behavior? So it's same mechanism, same everything there. It's patterns that we look at. This is often what we're missing. And we just don't see, we skip the function of that behavior. Why are they barking? Why are they at the end of the leash? Why are they pacing? We just say, well, look, I see a behavior I don't want. It's inconvenient to me. So we call that inconvenience of proximity. It's just really inconvenient to have a dog that doesn't just settle. Whereas if you had a chimpanzee that
Yeah.
doesn't settle or a lion that doesn't settle, it's a whole different case because we don't have to stay in with them. So I think that's one of the biggest mismatches when we bring our dogs out in public is we're just not seeing how these patterns show up.